All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Not a great day to have this discussion. Basically, looks like Russia has declared war on Ukraine and markets are crashing. We have allowed to keep ourselves, business as usual to keep going. So, welcome to this session today, or the discussion that we're having today, specifically to talk about how do we redefine our multi-cloud strategy with a great solution offering from Google called Anthos, right? So I have with me Pritam, who's the principal partner engineer from Google with us today. And I also have Janice, who's one of the senior cloud experts that we have in Niveus Solutions. And my name is Bharath, and I head the customer engineering team at Niveus Solutions. So all of us have been working on Anthos, helping our customers gain some benefits out of it. So we thought we will have this discussion over how can basically Anthos help in the whole multi-cloud strategy, right? So let's start with the basics first. Let's take a step back even before getting into Anthos and why Anthos, how it helps, right? So we have seen a perpetual shift happening right from the beginning. There were punch cards, and then came the bare metal, right, and then came the VMs, and today we are talking about we are deploying containers, microservices, right? So there is always a shift that's happening, and adapting to it is what we term as modernization. So what was modernization 10 years ago is not what modernization is today, and what modernization is today might not be the same 10 years later. So, right, we have been going through application modernizations, infra modernizations, and data modernizations to keep ourselves up to date and leverage what best cloud as a technology can offer, right? So people have been talking about adopting multi-cloud or even hybrid cloud at this point of time, right? And we are already seeing people implementing this from quite a few years, which has exponentially picked up because of the pandemic that we faced, right? That's when people realize the actual value of or the necessity rather to move to cloud or cloud adoption, right? It's picked up a lot. So I would like to invite Pritam to talk about the whole adoption of hybrid and multi-cloud strategy, right? So what kind of advantages an organization can get by adopting this strategy? After that, we can talk about the challenges around it.
Yeah, thanks, Bharat. A very valid question. Uh, and uh, and it's not about Google telling this or preaching on these lines. It's a industry veterans likes of Forrester, Gartner's, and IDC. What they have realized is hybrid and multi-cloud is going to be the future for any customer's journey, especially whether they're startups or enterprises or mid-segment organization. And it falls down to two or three bucket areas why this strategy is going to head there or is going to be the future in the transformation journey we're talking about, especially the road ahead with Anthos on Google Cloud. So first thing, if you look at, there are few data residency or jurisdiction issues where the applications cannot be moved out of their customer's environment, which ultimately leads to customer to innovate non-critical workload or non-data sensitive workloads to cloud. Might be a simple DR, might be a test and development or sandbox environment, or there can be a something like legacy applications, right, that cannot be immediately moved on cloud because they might be on non-x86 architectures or might be very skewed towards the legacy way of deployment they have done it. It might be in a single server, very difficult to decouple, or might be there is a latency issues between the application. All these factors do contribute, and industry experts have really realized the value of hybrid multi-cloud. And we believe from Google as well, this is going to be the future. And no organization is going to invest in a single cloud vendor, even if they are going to have an entire DC exit in the near future. So that's the road ahead for every one of us.
Absolutely, absolutely. So with every, just like any other change that we adopt, with every change comes its own set of challenges, right? So every organization, whether they're an enterprise or a corporate or SMB, right? You will have your networks, you will have your storages, you will have your computes, right? Which, let's say if you're a cloud born, you would have it on a particular cloud or in your VMs and things like that. Otherwise, maybe you had it on your on-premises, right? Slowly, you start adopting hybrid because of the regulatory compliances. Part of your workload still remain on-prem. You may end up adopting cloud for some of these, and then comes the whole multi-cloud, right? So again, you now have workloads and computes and storages across multi-cloud and on your on-premises also. So some of the key challenges we is, how do I manage all this? How do I get a control of all this? Imagine doing something like your policy enforcement, your service management, container management, and infra management for each of this. Let's say when you have like a hybrid setup or a multi-cloud setup, right? I think that is one of the challenge I can think of, and which we have seen our customers telling us, which we have been trying to solve. So I'd like to call in Janice at that at this point of time, right? And Janice, so you have been doing work grounds on, right, implementing Anthos and stuff. So what are the typical challenges you face when an organization starts adopting a multi-cloud or a hybrid cloud strategy? Janice, I think you're on mute.
Am I audible now?
Awesome. Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah. So yeah, when enterprises look at moving on to the hybrid setup, right? So they, as you said, the first main challenge they look at is how you're going to enforce, the policies at a large scale, right? So they look at a centralized way of actually monitoring and even say, enforcing policies at all the levels. So this is one of the basic challenges we come across usually, when enterprises, want to move into an hybrid thing. And the other challenge is that suppose you say that you have a single cloud deployment that you do, right? How can you use this in a consistent way to apply it across various environments or across various clouds? So how can that be given consistently? So they don't want to use the developers' time to again and again do the same kind of things on different clouds, right? So that is one thing they look at. And the other option is how can they modernize the existing on-prem applications, leveraging the existing virtualized infrastructure that they already have. So these are some of the basic things they look at. Again, when you say when you're going to be on multi-cloud or a hybrid setup, right? They also look at options where how can they centrally do the monitoring of all the applications that are present across. So these are, I think, some of the basic challenges that enterprises face. Yeah, most of them. Yeah.
Cool. I think modernization challenges, monitoring, policy enforcement. I think that's pretty much these are the key aspects, whether on-prem or hybrid or a multi-cloud kind of poses, right? So as a follow-up on that, Janice, we have solved together a couple of these challenges for our clients, right? So what exactly can we think of in order to kind of mitigate these set of 5-6 typical challenges that we face in a multi-cloud strategy?
Yes, to start with, see, when the customers say that, we first of all look at a centralized way of, pushing out or enforcing policies and network. I think this is one of the very basic thing that any enterprise looks forward to, right? So they actually come back to us and ask us like, is there any platform which enables us to, do it at one go? So we don't have to really go and, look at each and every time what can we do and what are the constraints there and stuff. And then when it comes to microservices, right? So most of the Kubernetes architecture that we use and to deploy applications, they are in microservice architecture form. So here, when you have multiple microservices running, how do these services talk with each other? Maybe there are a lot of constraints there. The traffic management, the services talking to each other, how does that happen? So all of these are additional tasks, along with actually deploying your applications on cloud, right? So how can we do this? Is there any kind of a service service mesh around this, any platform that enables that? Again, the same thing, cloud logging, monitoring, like how can you actually log or monitor all of your applications running on your various environments? This is another challenge. Pretty much all the I think of the vendors, of the cloud vendors, they actually provide container management, right? So if I'm going to have multi-cloud setup, how can I get a single platform where I can, or a secured way in which I can run all of my workloads across all of the environments? Is there any platform for me to do that? That is another question that they ask us. So another thing is application development, right? So you want to build your applications, and then you want to use some solutions, maybe like from any marketplace, or how do you do that? So is there any platform for that? So these are some of the management options that clients look for, and this is, I think, most of the things that we look at.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, if I were to rephrase the things that you said on the technical side of it, right? If I know there are a lot of business folks who have joined the session as well, right? So basically, these challenges and the steps to mitigate them will impact how quickly you can basically develop, or how quickly your IT teams or your developers can develop and deploy applications, take them to the market faster, right? How can you have a modernized way of doing your whole CI/CD deployment cycles, right? Faster time to market, build anywhere, deploy anywhere kind of a concept, and also scale at will, right? So these are some of the key things that get impacted when you have a multi-cloud strategy, and you don't have a single control plane, right? Your most of your manpower or effort would go in basically configuring, monitoring across multiple all these workloads across multiple environments. It could be on-prem or on cloud, right? So that is what will hinder your progress or in taking your applications or giving your customers a better experience, right? So what we understand or we believe strongly is Anthos is a solution which comes here to the rescue to mitigate, basically all these challenges, right? So Pritam, I would like to call upon you now and ask you like, okay, what exactly is Anthos, and how exactly does this help in mitigating the challenges which Janice just spoke about?
Yeah, thanks, Bharat, for the question. If you look at Anthos, what has been the core value prop for our customers from the technical standpoint and of course the business as well, is
Mhm.
primarily it's a single pane of a glass. We call it, sometimes we call it SPOG, that is single pane of glass. It's an application management platform. We started with development, but we realized, as Janice was talking about the challenges, it is a core application development platform that extends the Google Cloud services and
Mhm.
also the engineering best practices to our customers' environment, wherever they are in the journey, whether they are looking at on-prem or might be looking at somewhere the hybrid or might be looking at multi-cloud model as well. So as a result, we are trying to improve upon the operational efficiency, especially the day two. If you look at in the application journey, application development is the small chunk of the entire, because your reliability and the best practices need to be incorporated over a continuous period. So it's more on the operational efficiency, improving the productivity, like faster time to market, which you highlighted, and of course, helping our customers or the users, especially the developers, DevOps people, to modernize the applications. So these are the three, four things Anthos brings a real value to the customers. And there is a publicly available report by industry analysts like Forrester, where they have realized over a 3-year time, anyone can download the report as well. We can expect like 4.8x the ROI,
Mhm.
the TCO, the gain from the by adopting the Anthos platform, and the operational efficiency can significantly improve somewhere between 50 to 60%. And if you're trying to look out the automating the best practices by policy management, especially in the complex environment, using service mesh, and again, it's based on the open source Istio, which is popularly used by the folks in the world of Kubernetes, right? It
Mhm.
can go as high as 95%. So these are some of the facts that really resonates well with our customers when they're looking at Anthos as a single pane of a glass, managing across the environment like multi-cloud, hybrid, or even in GCP.
Mhm.
And only thing it requires is some amount of knowledge on Kubernetes, which is widely known these days in the world of developer, to deploy and then automate the policies. In a nutshell, I will just take 30 more seconds, Bharat. Like it
Absolutely.
is
Right.
like it looks at two components. One is like the core components. The Kubernetes is the foundation stone we are looking to modernize. It's
Mhm.
the next VM, we call it. Like VM was one time the popular, it's now the Kubernetes the world. And the second thing is about service mesh based on Istio, and cloud build, which is gives you faster development, deploy your the components for the applications, right? And then we sometimes call it hybrid CI, continuous integration, and even cloud run, which is very popularly used for stateless workloads to be orchestrated or containerized. You always don't need a GK. There might be a stateless workload which can be easily floated down in a quick time. And there are some auxiliary or the additional services like config management is very, very super critical when you want to automate the policies across cross platform like hybrid or multi-cloud or even in GCP once the environment goes. So these are few, just a tip of iceberg. I just articulated what is about Anthos and what value or challenges it can help our customers.
Absolutely. I think Google has always followed the policy as one is to keep use the open source ones and then build managed services around it. And also, it's always been infrastructure agnostic solutions, right? That's what they're known in the market for. To summarize, basically, when you have a hybrid or a multi-cloud strategy within your organization, so in Anthos comes as an umbrella or a software-based solution which combines basically your config management across across environments, whether it could be on AWS or on premises or on GCP. The service mesh, which is the HTTP part of it, for publishing this, for managing the services, right? Config for, of course, publishing the policies, and then for your containers as well as your infra management, which comes in the form of the Anthos GK, which is Google Kubernetes engine, right? So all these three clubbed together form the Anthos solution, which will help you build and modernize your applications, which can practically scale at infinity mode, right? So that's what it is. So now that brings us to the next question, right? So let's say I already have developers who understand Kubernetes, and let's say they're already building cloud native applications. There is a hybrid, and typically in the banking scenarios where we see a lot of workloads because of compliance have to be retained on their on-premises data centers, right? And only certain kind of applications or the integrators can be built on cloud, right? Which means and typically most BFSIs opt for a multi-cloud strategy, right? They would have workloads on Azure, AWS, and GCP also, right? So in this typical scenario, yes, there are developers, yes, there are DevOps folks. So what kind of skill sets would someone need in order to, basically start adopting Anthos and then deploy it and start using it for the whole application modernization journey, Pritam?
Yeah, that's a great question, and we keep on getting from our lot of folks and the users and community. So I just want to break it on two parts. One is the developer piece, the development. That's how the DevOps started, right? And the other one is the operational piece. So we all know how the DevOps as a concept started as a culture and a mindset change. Similarly, Anthos takes that one step ahead for this. So you are looking at two things. One is from the application background. If you guys come from a development background, application developer, and love to modernize your existing applications and want to get started on Kubernetes, that's a great value add. And you are already on the hybrid multi-cloud model with Anthos, you can easily get started. And the second piece on the infrastructure. So once you want from the operational background, especially the sysadmins of the world, sysops guys, they used to do a lot, and now they work closely with the developers and the application guys, right? So in that aspect, it depends on what type of deployment model you want to get started. So if you are looking for only GCP, the infrastructure knowledge is good. But if you're looking for a multi-cloud or a hybrid model, knowledge of the VMware environment, especially the hypervisors, the vSpheres, that is a great asset to have on Anthos when you want to get started. The bare metals, if you want to have no hypervisors, only on the bare metal servers, and of course the other cloud vendors. So containers, I would say in a nutshell, the infrastructure knowledge, and of course the security aspect and the CI/CD knowledge. So these are the three things that could easily streamline your journey on Google Cloud with Anthos for a hybrid multi-cloud.
Absolutely. Thanks for that, Pritam. So, so Janice, I think you and your team have been, helping our clients adopt Anthos and leverage the benefits that brings to the table as a form of multi-cloud, right? So, I'm sure your teams, over the period of time, have identified what are the best practices, right, in order to, and what are the things that the team that is implementing Anthos, should keep in mind. What kind of prerequisites? If you could throw some light on that, Janice, that would be really helpful for our an audience today.
Yes, Bharat. So basically, this whole thing of, setting up your Anthos, basically depends on what kind of solution you're using of Anthos, right? So let's say that you're using Anthos on bare metal, then it is going to have its own set of prerequisites. So every solution, I think, they have given the set of prerequisites or the checks that you would need to have in order to have your Anthos installed. So be it the ports, be it the APIs, and what kind of connectivity you need between, if you're on-prem, right, and you want to use Anthos, so what kind of pre-checks that you have to do based on your network, and your network configurations and stuff. So they give you a set of these checks, and it is pretty straightforward. Like, you have simple configuration files that Anthos provides you. You have they have their own tools. For example, I think for Anthos and bare metal, we have something called as VMCTL tool. So using this tool, you can generate those Anthos configuration files. You generate, and it's quite straightforward. You just have to fill in the details. Say it, if you want logging and monitoring to be enabled, if you want any volumes to be attached, if you if you want any other things, it has all the details provided in that. So based on your what your solution is looking out for, you enable all of this, and you configure these files, and I think your Anthos cluster would be ready. So this would basically give you the basic Anthos, the clusters. And on that, if you want to make use of the ASM, like the Anthos service mesh, you want to use that, you can actually enable that too. You can deploy your applications, and then you can enable all of this. And the console is, I think it's very beautiful. It's one stop, and you can see all of the things that are running there. You will know what exactly how your clusters are performing, and if you want any other related information, the workloads that are running on that, it's all with a click of a button, you can say, you just go and you can go through it. So it is pretty straightforward, I could say. So based on the solution, every solution has its own set of things, requirements that you need to understand, and if you have everything in place, it runs very smoothly, Bharath.
Yeah. So before we talk about the benefits, right? So on the ground, you have worked with both, let's say, traditional enterprises who wanted to try out Anthos and get the benefits, and also some of the DNs, right? So typically, while Anthos is being implemented, right from the mind share or the mindset, or even from the on-ground technical support kind of a thing, or the dependencies that we have, like we as vendors, of course, come in as partners, and we understand Anthos well, but there are also these app teams and the infra teams and the security teams from the the organizations. I would again like to take an example of BFSI, because that's where hybrid and multi-cloud is predominantly present in the Indian market, right? So any instances of any specific challenges you encountered as a part of this, right, which which posed a little bit of threat in the beginning, but yeah, later, of course, we know that we all sailed through. Can you think of any instances? Yeah.
Yeah, so basically what happens is when you're starting off with something new, right? I mean, you really don't know how things work, right? So first thing is, the key thing is, you need to really understand the solution, what it is offering, and based on that, say the prerequisites, they would have been elaborate set of steps, but yet based on every environment, every enterprise has its own you can say the network that it runs, right? So if you're trying to deploy something new onto their environment, we really need to understand how their networks work. A basic use case I can give you is, one of the I think one of the use cases we were working on, where we were trying to deploy Anthos on bare metal, and we were somehow not able to, the cluster was not coming up, and the logs and stuff, we were initially not able to understand as to what it is. But later on, we realized that the enterprise themselves, they have their own set, of policies that have been already enforced on those operating systems. You have your McAfee running, so it has its own network restrictions. It can't reach certain APIs. So these are some things that, we really did not think so deep initially. But I think as we understood, how exactly what the product is offering and how it works, right now we are in a state where we know, okay, enterprises have their own set of prerequisites, and based on the solution we need to take care of. So we just go, we understand this, and we tell the enterprise, so these are the things that we would need for Anthos to work seamlessly. So and I think once you explain to them and make them understand why exactly, what are we trying to do, they agree, and then the solution works out, Bharath. And even they quite enjoy it also after they see the results.
Thanks for sharing that, Janice. I know people, from the audience, there would still be folks who probably are even trying Anthos at this point of time, or even wondering where it fits in. So I think some of these early learnings is something which they also can take back, and while they are adopting, they'll be able to implement those best practices, and also keep in mind the challenges and the way they were overcome, right? So let's now come to the point where we did highlight what challenges can Anthos mitigate, but what are the key benefits that clients can start leveraging, and how and how quickly can one start seeing the benefits once they start adopting Anthos?
So, typically in cases of, when you go for a hybrid option, right, the first thing you would see is how seamlessly you can manage from a single platform, right? You have a unified management system. So from a single place, you're able to see across environments or across different places what exactly is happening. So this is one of the first benefits you would see. I think one of the use cases was the customer initially was not able to understand why would we use this. Okay, clusters it is, right? So when we actually showed them, okay, you have your cluster on-prem also, you have your clusters on GKE also. So everything, it's just in one place. You are able to monitor all of it in one place. So they were like, oh yeah, this is a convenient way of, looking out at things. So this is one of the key benefits I feel. The second one is you modernize anywhere, right? You be on cloud or you be on premise, yet you can take advantage of this and you can modernize at any time and anywhere. So then the third aspect I see is you are automating policies. So day in and day out, I think enterprises have a lot of policies that they want to enforce across various environments, right? So your entire security is in place there. Then the other aspect I
And
see
also,
is
policy enforcement is not a one-time activity, right? I mean, you need to
exactly,
keep upgrading. There would be a lot of changes, patches that is coming in, which you need to do it. If you were to do it manually
exactly.
across every environment, that itself is a big challenge. But if you can do it from a single pane here, comes up as a
Yes.
primary benefit, right? Yeah.
Yes, so like Pritam and you rightly said, so ACM Anthos config management helps you so much with that. So you have one repo that you have linked with across all of your clusters, right? And what happens is you just have to push all of your policies in this repo. Immediately, all the clusters that have been cloned with this particular repo, they all have to adhere or they are enforced to use these policies. So it becomes really very, very simple. You don't have to actually go and monitor whether one of my clusters having these policies or no. So it is very simple, right? The other one is since you're using Kubernetes here, it is the, I think that technology is something as of now most of the people know, right? It is very easy, and plus it is very portable and consistent across your multiple environments that you have. So this since Anthos, it is powered by Kubernetes, I think this is one of the biggest advantages. You run it anywhere and it works out seamlessly, right? And the other, like I think you're always speaking about, is the TCO. So the that is really down. You have flexible options in that for subscriptions and stuff. So that works out, Bharath, for all the customers.
Yeah, I think in addition, even one is you can modernize anywhere. It brings in the kind of unified management. It brings in the consistency of experience, right? It gives you a platform which can run anywhere, and of course, portability is another option. You can have your workloads run today on on-prem, and tomorrow you can move it to let's say AWS, and you find better things on GCP. You can move it there, right? That portability is another experience, and of course, security guardrails is something, right? Because all these automated security policies will be there, which will help you meet the compliances defined, let's say, by the organizing, the regulating body, or even within your organization, whatever the security team that set up the policies, right? So I think these also can be taken care of there. So great. I think these are some of the key benefits. And again, like I said, coming back to the business benefits, whatever be your app, whether it's a financial app, whether it's e-commerce app, whether it's a manufacturing, admin app, monitoring app, all these things can be taken to, you can add features to your applications much faster, right? From the traditional way of doing it, and you'll be able to see results, and you'll be able to give better experiences to your customers, right? So having said that, let's move on to the next piece, which is some of the case studies where we have done this and the customers actually have leveraged some benefit, right? So Janice, I think again we have done this for, let's say, a couple of BFSI customers, some of the manufacturing customers as well. So if you could share about how what was the challenge and how we kind of overcame that with Anthos, and what kind of benefits are they seeing at this point of time?
Yeah, so I think we have worked on a couple of use cases here, and I think first off we started off with one of the banks, and then that was basically where they wanted to understand what is Anthos. I think that time it was very, very new in the market. Like people had no idea of what Anthos can actually give you. So in this use case, basically we tried to show them how Anthos on bare metal works, right? So this was the first solutions that we worked, and I think yes, that time we did face a lot of challenges because it was very new. Even we had no much idea, but eventually, we got a hang of it. Like what exactly works for an enterprise. So enterprise to enterprise, Anthos works in a very different way, based on what the requirement is. We need to understand, and then basically, talk of work on the solution. So first of the use cases was, like I said, Anthos on bare metal, where we actually took in a single cluster. I think we created admin clusters and user clusters, and then we deployed their application on the user clusters, and we demoed out to them how it works. And then they were quite happy. They actually understood how it works, and now they're actually looking at doing it at the production level. And then we worked for, I think, for one of the other largest banking company, like bank. So there they wanted to look at the hybrid solution. So where I was speaking of the challenge, right? So customers really did not understand how the solution would work for them, where we said that, you know what, it's okay for you to have all of your data on in your premises. They didn't want to get their data out, but you know, you could have your application hosted on your GKE cluster, and you could actually show how it works. So that was one of the you know, one of the good use cases that we worked on, and we were successfully able to showcase how Anthos works there, and the customer was like really, you know, happy to see that. And right now we are working on use cases, you know, where they want to see the benefits of having Anthos on VMware, and some other use cases, Bharath.
Yeah, absolutely. I think VMware on-prem multi-cloud is something which almost every organization heading, and they would be able to see these benefits, right? Because it's a one-off solution available in the market. We've also seen once you have your workloads across multi-cloud, even your analytics on the data kind of becomes a big challenge, right? So we have seen where Anthos has been able to help bring in this entire monitoring, and the big data analytics complexity gets really reduced. And right, it also brings advantage in terms of cost, because you don't need multiple people to manage your workloads across different environments who come with those specific skill sets. So I think those are a couple of other things that which I have observed when I have been speaking to customers who have adopted it, right? So Pritam, anything you would like to add from if you are aware of any of these benefits which the customers have gained from adopting Anthos?
Yeah. So like Bharat, what you have seen with the interaction with our customers and working, of course, with you, the joint engagement, like it all depends on the what the use case the customer is looking at. And two, three use case fall very strongly and aligns with the, of course, the Indian market. You will see a lot of Windows centric market like legacy .NET applications, and customers are willing to better cost effective model where they want to refactor into .NET Core, which is Linux based over a period of a time, not quickly, phase wise manner. That is also one of the thing approach we are seeing in the market of traction, as well as modernizing the legacy Java applications as well. And modernizing the CI/CD applications. So these are two, three use cases we see is going to be the key, apart from starting the fresh cloud native applications directly on containers or Kubernetes, as you want to call out. So these are the three, four things which is going to be there with any customer's environment, and with the right assessment which you give with Anthos tool before even you migrate, we can give the customers the right picture, right deployment model, and flexible pricing option. The value adds of Anthos, where you rightly call out, Janice rightly call out from her expertise, like not only consistent experience, even the day two is my core to my heart, because that takes a lot of heavy lifting for any customers and strong partners like you supporting the customer journey, whether it is operational efficiency, productivity, the security posture, the guardrails, and of course taking care of the fact apart from TCO is the portability factor and no vendor lock-in. So these are the four key things I would like to say is the key to if you're any customers or organization looking for multi-cloud hybrid journey.
Absolutely. I think another point which probably we missed out is when you're, let's say, if you're a cloud company, of course, it's more easier, and adopting and thus becomes straightforward. But if, let's say, you're a legacy enterprise system where you have hundreds of applications, right? And typically most of these are following a monolithic approach, which is what was used to build most of the applications that we are using today, right from banking to booking to telecom and media, right? So now here the challenge is, now how do I modernize all these applications, right? So there needs to be some strategy put in place to identify, one is the complexities involved in these applications, which to refactor, which to rebuild, which to redeploy, which to modernize, which to retire, coming up with that strategic plan, and then identifying the low hanging fruits, and then using Anthos in order to do the whole modernization piece also becomes a key factor, right? So that is something we can work with the framework where we say, okay, work with the application product owners, right, to understand the complexities involved, the priority, or what kind of downtime can be afforded on this particular application, especially if it is an internal application. If it is a customer facing application, we cannot expect any kind of a downtime there, right? The modernization has to happen seamlessly. So a lot of these factors also will have to be considered, and then identify and put a roadmap to all your applications for the modernization journey. And then Anthos then becomes an integral part of your modernization strategy, right? So that's something which we have observed for traditional enterprises. So that's a key thing even before we start the modernization journey. right? We are at, we've almost completed 35 minutes. So we thought we'll keep the last 5 to 10 minutes for QA. But before we take any questions, any final thoughts? So I hope we were able to talk about, right, why the world is moving towards hybrid and multi-cloud kind of a strategy. What are the challenges that they typically face, and how Anthos comes in as a key player, which will help you modernize anywhere with the unified management, the security guardrails, the lower TCO, the consistency, and the portability in place, right, to manage your workload across multi-cloud and hybrid strategy. So that's just what we wanted to give you in this session. So any final words, Janice?
So basically, Anthos enables us to develop, deploy, or applications that can be deployed anywhere, right, in a secure and a consistent way. It helps you basically to create your scalable, secure, compliant application. So I think container management with all these Anthos clusters that you can have, the various advantages that Anthos gives us. I think we should use all of this and just have look at a better picture with using Anthos. So yeah.
Absolutely. I think the combination of Google Cloud Marketplace, migrate for Anthos, Cloud Run, right, which gives in this config service mesh as well as a GK experience, is the next step towards modernization of applications. So Pritam, any final words from your end?
It was nicely covered by you, Bharath and Janice. So I would say, if you are organization going for a transformation journey, especially for the customers aspect, since hybrid multi-cloud is the option, the way forward, always look out for the portability without compromising the security posture and deployment model. So Anthos can be a great value add apart from the TCO. And do read out our Forrester report, and it's a third-party report where they've analyzed a 3-year period of time. 4.8x is the any customer can easily achieve if some guardrails and best practices and approach and framework is put in.
Great, thanks a lot, Pritam and Janice. So we have a couple more minutes, so would be happy to take any questions from the folks who are there in the audience. You can type in your questions in the QA section. We'd be more than happy to answer them. On the right bottom part, you will be able to see the QA section where you can type in your questions. All right. Okay. Well, if there are no questions, I think then we can wind up. So once again, thanks Pritam for your time and giving us from the product point of view, or from the developers or the originators of the Anthos point of view, and how Anthos was developed, with what motive, and how it's helping the clients. And Janice, for the insights on the practical challenges that are faced while implementing a multi-cloud strategy, and how Anthos can efficiently mitigate these challenges, and what kind of benefits both our customers are getting. So thanks a lot for your time, and also thanks to the audience who have been part of this webinar session. I hope it was useful and you were able to get a background on how Anthos can actually boost the whole application modernization scene. Right. All right. Thank you. Thanks a lot. Take care and stay safe. Have a great evening.
Thank you, everyone. Take care and stay safe.